When an elderly woman named Suda entered the restaurant, she expected a celebration for her birthday, but instead she was met with cold stares and neglect from the waiter. A young man, not knowing he was speaking to the mother of the restaurant owner, denied her the right to eat, unaware that his career would be ruined within minutes. What happened after that was shocking even to those who had seen a lot in their lives. But let's start from the beginning. Don't forget to subscribe and like to support the fight against racism and social injustice. Mrs. Evelyn slowly approached the restaurant. Over the years, this cozy corner had become a special place for her. She used to come here often, sometimes with friends, sometimes with family, and sometimes alone. Today, she came to celebrate her birthday, expecting a warm welcome and smiles from the staff as she entered. She was surrounded by the familiar atmosphere, the sounds of conversations, the clinking of dishes, and the aroma of delicious fresh food. She scanned the room looking for an empty table, but her attention suddenly shifted to a new waiter standing at the counter. He looked frowning, as if he was annoyed by something. Evelyn ignored this, thinking he was just tired after a long shift. She approached him with a smile and said, "Hello, I have a table reserved under my name. My name is Evelyn." The waiter glanced at her briefly while holding his notepad, and there was something strange in his eyes that made Evelyn feel uneasy. He replied coldly, "There are no available tables. They're all occupied." Evelyn frowned, not understanding why her reservation wasn't being honored. "But I called yesterday and confirmed. Could there be a mistake?" The waiter sighed impatiently and replied rudely, "I told you there are no available tables. You should look for another place." Evelyn felt a pang of pain in her heart. She was a regular customer here, knew all the staff by their names, and had never faced such treatment before. But she felt there was something deeper than just a crowded restaurant. The waiter's look, the stiffness of his face, were all too familiar to her. She had known that look since her childhood, the look she would get when entering stores, offices, and even schools, the look of someone who did not see her as their equal. Despite the inner turmoil, Evelyn tried to remain calm. She took a step forward and asked, "Are you sure there's no place for me? Maybe I can wait by the counter." The waiter crossed his arms over his chest and gave a sarcastic smile. "I've told you everything I have. There are no available tables, and that's not up for discussion." Evelyn felt that all the eyes of the restaurant's patrons were starting to turn toward her. She didn't like drawing attention, especially in moments like this, but this time was different. She wasn't just a customer, she was the mother of the restaurant owner, and although she didn't want to use this position as a weapon, she felt that she had to defend her right to stay here. She suppressed her anger and disappointment, gathered her thoughts, and asked, "Maybe you don't know who I am?" The waiter looked at her with disdain and said, "I don't care who you are. There's no place for people like you here." These words were a shock to her. She couldn't believe that such prejudice still existed in her society. And in the restaurant owned by her son, she also felt an old feeling rising inside her, the feeling of needing to resist. Evelyn stood trying to comprehend what was happening. The feeling of injustice was growing inside her, and she felt how her usual calm was starting to be eroded by suppressed anger. Her heartbeat became faster, and memories of the insults and injustices she had faced throughout her life resurfaced, mixed with the bitterness of this moment. But Evelyn was no longer the little girl who could be easily intimidated. She had gone through years of struggle and learned how to defend her dignity. Still, in this moment, she felt conflicted. She was tired of fighting. Age and years of struggling for rights, justice, and respect had exhausted her. But with that came the realization that giving up now would mean allowing this injustice to continue. And she was never one to give up. Sensing her hesitation, the waiter became bolder, his smile growing more mocking. "Do you think you're allowed to stay here just because you're a regular customer? This is no longer your place, is it?" He took a quick look at her old bag and her worn-out shoes and added, "Go back to where you came from." Despite her exhaustion, Evelyn stood tall with inner strength. Her determination was growing, and she remembered her son James, how she had supported him all his life, and how she had protected him from injustice when, as a young black man, he was repeatedly stopped and searched for no reason. How they struggled together against a system that left no room for people like them. Now? She couldn't allow herself to remain silent. At that moment, whispers began among the restaurant patrons. People started to look up, paying attention to the conflict. Some took out their phones to record what was happening, and soon posts began to appear on social media with comments about the blatant discrimination. The age of technology was on her side. People could no longer witness such things in silence without intervening. Evelyn looked at the rest of the customers. She knew that if she left now, she would feel defeated and powerless, and she couldn't bear that. Not now. She took a deep breath and raised her hand, signaling to one of the prominent staff members. "I want to speak to the manager," she said. Her voice was calm, but it carried a note of firmness. The waiter did not expect this turn of events, and his arrogance quickly faded, replaced by confusion. He glanced again at her modest appearance, expecting her words to be nothing more than an empty threat. Nevertheless, he reluctantly moved behind the counter to call his supervisor. While he was moving, Evelyn remained in her place, trying to gather her thoughts. People continued to watch her and whisper, but now their looks carried more curiosity than judgment. Social media platforms began to gain momentum. New posts, photos, and videos spread quickly, accompanied by hashtags condemning acts of racism. Without Evelyn realizing it, her struggle became a public issue. She felt a simple satisfaction rising within her. Maybe this is what should be done to show that people like her do not give in to injustice, even if they are tired. After a few minutes, the restaurant manager came out of the kitchen, adjusting his clothes nervously. He had already received several messages about the escalating incident and the attention it was generating, and this was clearly worrying him. As soon as he saw Mrs. Evelyn, his expression changed immediately. He recognized her right away. She was James's mother, the owner of the restaurant. He approached, trying to ease the tension. But the time had already passed. The situation was escalating, and an increasing number of customers were witnessing the conflict. The manager started speaking, saying to Mrs. Evelyn, "I apologize for the misunderstanding. Let me help you find a table myself." Evelyn looked at him with a calm but firm gaze. She could have let the manager solve everything now, but she understood that the problem wouldn't be solved just by finding her a table. It wasn't just about a rude waiter. It was about a deep-rooted discrimination that had crept even into places she thought would always be welcoming to her. "People can no longer ignore incidents like this," said Evelyn firmly, her eyes scanning the room. "You don't need to apologize to me. You just need to apologize to everyone who has faced similar discrimination. This isn't just an incident. It's part of a problem that needs to be addressed." The manager hesitated, feeling more eyes focused on him. He knew that if he didn't act now, the consequences could be more serious than just a few dissatisfied customers. He saw people recording the scene, and he knew that the story would soon be on the internet. And he didn't want this restaurant to be known for a scandal related to racial discrimination. Meanwhile, James had seen the video of the incident, and he was rushing to the restaurant. He felt angry and disappointed that something like this had happened in his establishment, the place he had worked so hard to make a symbol of hospitality and respect for everyone. James entered the restaurant, his face cold and firm. He saw his mother standing tall before the manager and waiter, who were trying to explain themselves. James approached, his calm voice cutting through the air. The tense atmosphere. What is happening here? The waiter turned pale as he recognized the person before him. James, focused on the manager, asked, "Why is my mother standing here, humiliated? I opened this restaurant so that everyone would feel welcome, regardless of who they are. But instead, they are facing discrimination." The manager attempted to explain, but James interrupted. He fired the waiter on the spot due to the waiter's prejudice. The waiter, realizing his mistake, left the restaurant without protest, his face bitter. Meanwhile, people in the restaurant continued recording the incident, and within minutes, the video showing the waiter's dismissal and James's firm words began to spread on social media. This incident became a turning point not only for the restaurant, but also for how society responds to such events. James turned to the customers and staff. And Amy said, "You shouldn't have had to go through this situation, and no one should have to go through it. I want everyone to know that there will be no place for discrimination and bias here. This applies to all of us, and we will work to make sure that nothing like this ever happens again." The crowd erupted in applause, and the room was filled with cheers of support. The community support gave strength to both James and Evelyn. In that moment, it became clear that their struggle had not been in vain. Social media has become a powerful tool in the hands of the people, and this incident did not go unnoticed. Despite the exhaustion from what happened, Evelyn felt proud of her son. This day was not just a celebration of her birthday, but a symbol of how small actions can have a big impact when they come from the struggle for justice. After the waiter was expelled, the atmosphere in the restaurant gradually calmed down. James stood by his mother and addressed everyone present, saying, "Thank you all for your support. This restaurant is a place for everyone, regardless of race or background. We will do everything we can to ensure that incidents like this do not happen again." His words were met with applause, and support from the customers grew, reminding both James and Evelyn that the struggle for equality never ends. Social media was abuzz with comments, and video clips from the scene spread across the internet, bringing the story to a wide audience. Evelyn looked at her son with pride. This day had become not just her birthday, but also a symbol of the community's strength and their shared struggle against injustice. James promised to implement training programs for employees and to support initiatives aimed at promoting equality and tolerance. When the restaurant finally emptied, Evelyn and James sat together, realizing that this day was an important turning point not only for their family, but for everyone who had faced prejudice as well.